Aston Villa have just beaten Bayern Munich. Christ. This feels like a long time ago. Like that one time that goal line technology just didn't work and Aston Villa, you could say, stayed up because of just it not working. Or feels like a long time ago since that one time the captain of Aston Villa, Julian Lescott, accidentally from his phone tweeted out a picture of a Mercedes-Benz while Aston Villa was beaten 6-0. I think people may forget now, and I'm sure Villa fans will too, that Aston Villa were relegated back in 2016 in an embarrassing fashion. There's something happening in the Premier League in these recent years. It's always been accused of being quite a Bundesliga type of league where Man City wins the league each year. However, each year there's always a brand new story, or two of them, where it gravitates you towards it. If it was last year with Newcastle being in the Champions League and Brighton and Hove Albion also being in the Europa League, or if it was a year prior of West Ham United winning the Europa Conference League. We've had some pretty interesting stories, and Aston Villa as a football club has inevitably been fated to be back at this level. Unlike their usual comparison club in Nottingham Forest that also have won Champions Leagues, plural, they won 2 and Villa won 1. Villa across their entire history has always been a top level club, winning not just the Champions League one time in 1982, but also winning multiple top flight titles and FA Cups as well, where Nottingham Forest was kind of like a freak moment in their history when they were just absolutely insane. While Nottingham Forest only won 1 league title in their entire history and then won 2 European Cups. And work that one out. I don't know a single club in the world that has won more European Cups, Champions Leagues than actual league titles in their domestic country. Tell me if there's any others, please do. I don't know of any others. Unai Emery, by the surprise of absolutely no one, has turned Aston Villa into a European giant. And as a fan of a club that is not a top 6 club, granted I'm not comparing Burnley to Villa, but take it with a pinch of salt, I hate you and I'm not jealous at all. So in today's video, we're going to go through how we've come from Julian Lescott tweeting accidentally from his car, to goal line technology not working, to we love Jack Grealish and now we hate you, to Steven Gerrard is now here, oh my god I forgot about Steven Gerrard, to beating Bayern Munich in the Champions League 1-0 yet again. Christ, I remember literally like 5-6 years ago watching Aston Villa play Bolton in Manchester with Ile Lucas X100. Throwback to him, by the way, doing a live stream on a Sportsman YouTube channel, and that is still live now. It's unlisted, but you can still find it. I'll put a link down below. So comment down below your thoughts on Villa. If you're a Villa fan, tell me how gassed you are. But also, is there going to be more clubs that can potentially go into Europe and challenge against top 6 clubs? Because money is in every single club now. So Brighton and West Ham and Newcastle and Villa can actually compete to be in Champions League. That seemed like an impossible task, but now it's a yearly occurrence now. Who would that next club be, and why is it Fulham? So yeah, like, subscribe, and of course, I've got a John Duran print on my site, Mazzola Designs. Obviously, it's done very well. That's why I'm happy. So link down below to Mazzola Designs. If you're a Villa fan, do your thing. And of course, 15% off all items. Use Villa for the code. And let's get into it. John Duran. John Duran, for me, is like prime Barclays, but like 10 years later. I think that's the way I can compare John Duran. You know the prime Barclays memes that you've been seeing around on social media? That's him. He's just too late to the party. Duran scored another incredible goal off the bench. He's now scored, I believe, 8 goals in 6 games, despite starting only 1 of them, which is a marvelous stat in itself. A 20-year-old Colombian kid that lobbed and embarrassed one of the best goalkeepers of all time. And this game, of course, had so much nostalgia with Aston Villa beating Bayern Munich 1-0 to actually win a European Cup back in 1982 thanks to a Peter Wyeth goal. So the fact they've beat them 1-0 again actually makes me rock solid. Didn't say that. Aston Villa belong at this level. Of course, they're one of the founding members of the Football League, one of the 12, and they always come across as like a club which is almost trendy. Like they are the hipster club of the almost top 6. They fall into the category of just outside of it with like Newcastle and Everton, which they almost have their own inner battle of, no, I'm a bigger club, no, I'm a bigger club, no, I'm a bigger club. And more recently has been relegated, promoted, and just in general for the last 20 years. Average. 7 league titles, 7 FA Cups, and a Champions League to add to it as well. Aston Villa in the 2000s always came across as a sort of almost club. You look back on their games in their Acorns kit and you remember the likes of Ashley Young, Gareth Barry, Gabriel Bonlahor, but they could never get over the line in that top 4. They consecutively always finish 7th or 6th almost every single season, actually being 6th place 3 seasons in a row, and this led to them selling their key players. And in 2011, this is where the kind of downhill of Aston Villa really began, with them selling Gareth Barry, James Milner and Ashley Young, and this is where Martin O'Neill had to leave the club. 2011 was the beginning of the downhill for Aston Villa, where they actually signed Alex McLeish. You may remember him. Now, he actually was manager of Birmingham City. If you don't know, they're main rivals. This led to actual fan protests to get him at the club, and by the end of the year, he was terminated. Also, they finished 16th place that year. So they've gone from back to back to back 6th place finishers to then selling their best players, appointing their rivals manager, and then finishing 16th. Smart. But it came to light of why they did that. They announced a financial loss of over £50 million in the next summer, which is a massive reason of why they had to sell these big players. And in the mid-2000s, a man called Randy Lerner joined the club, an American businessman. It's always the Americans. And this could be also sent back to the market crash in 2008. And this actually is probably where the club actually began its downfall, because Randy Lerner was the owner of the club at this point, and because of the stock market crash in 2008, he was unwilling to really spend on the club because he didn't have the money anymore. So actually, 2008 and the stock market crash is actually the downfall of Aston Villa, and they were stagnant and, in all fairness, rotting for countless years until the inevitable season of 2015-16. Prior to that, they were indeed in the FA Cup final thanks to Tim Sherwood. However, they did get battered in the final, and they will forget that immediately. They also had players like Christian Benteke and Fabian Delph that was good in that year. They're only actual lasting decent players that they had left. And then 15-16 happened. Tim Sherwood lost 6 games in a row. Remy Gard then came in. Remy Gard, remember him, then left the club after 5 months. Aston Villa didn't win a single game in 19 games. Micah Richards was still there, despite him now being seen as some sort of representative for Aston Villa, despite him being a key part in the worst part in their entire history. Jordan Ayew was their best player with 7 goals. Jordan Ayew. And I think people do forget how bad they were. They finished not just rock bottom with only 3 wins all year. 3 wins all year. They had 17 points. 17. To give a contrast, you can double their points and they still would have been relegated. But they did still beat Birmingham City in that season, which is kind of funny. And when they got relegated, it somehow got worse with a new owner called Tony Jia, a Chinese businessman. He joined the club, appointed Roberto Di Matteo, and of course was sacked after 12 games. And then here comes Steve Bruce, which for most people that remembers him now may think of him as a complete meme, finishing 4th place and into the playoff final, losing 1-0 to Fulham. And he still is a meme there. And then Dean Smith came in, and then it got a bit better. So you can imagine Aston Villa fans being quite dismayed that they may actually be a championship club now. And it somehow got worse. With Tony Jia, that just bought the club, the next season was found in serious financial difficulties, and the club was almost put in administration. So he sold a majority stake in the club to an Egyptian businessman and an American one. That main one being the Egyptian by the name of Nassef Onsi Servius. He's still at the club now, and these are the current owners of Aston Villa Football Club. And in the next season, Aston Villa actually got promoted to the Premier League after beating Derby County in the final. Now, this can be remembered as the Jack Grealish years that most people remember. That Jack Grealish was beyond too good for the Championship, but yet stayed at Aston Villa, of course, and got his club back to the top flight. Aston Villa almost got relegated, and actually probably should have got relegated if it wasn't for a great run of form in the end. I also forget that Aston Villa was actually in a League Cup final this year, losing 2-1 to Manchester City, which I forget this even happened, this final. Do you remember this final? I mean, if you're a Villa fan, you do, obviously. But I forget this final ever even happened. Anyway, Aston Villa almost went down with the infamous Sheffield United goal line technology failing to work. Didn't happen. Now, this is a bit tongue-in-cheek that people say, oh, they stayed up because of a failure in technology. Granted, this game was like 10 games before the end of the year. They did stay up by a point, and this could have been a loss for them, and they actually would have gone down. That is a fair comment to make. That Bournemouth could have stayed up. But I also think if there's 10 games difference after this, I just don't think this is the reason why they stayed up. But you can say that their goal line technology can play a factor. Anyway, they beat Liverpool 7-2 next year. That happened. Dean Smith beat Klopp 7-2. I still can't believe that. The next year, Jack Grealish left the club for about £100 million. Now tell me down below, Villa fans, do you still hate Jack Grealish? I don't think I would. If someone gets sold for 100 million quid, then I would be like, fair enough, I guess. Steven Gerrard joined the club, which was funny, and then he left the club the next year. People kind of do forget how bad Aston Villa was. Like, by the time it was October, they were 17th in the table. So, you know, and then a man called Unai Emery joined. You may have heard of him, and then in that same year, they finished 7th. So that could be maybe your Steven Gerrard. And now Aston Villa are back. 7th place finished to a 4th place, and now they've beat Bayern Munich. And that's kind of what's happened. Now, how has Emery done this? Unai Emery is a master of tactics. He's a master of European competition as well. Not perfect. They did actually get knocked out by Olympiacos in the Conference League last year, which I'm a bit annoyed about because I could have made a lot of money off Prince, but that's fine. When it comes to a one-off European game, I actually wouldn't trust many other managers ahead of Unai Emery. And last night he proved that, despite Bayern Munich having a much better team, Vincent Kompany, of course, playing really aggressive football. So obvious to see the weaknesses in his game, which is on the transition, he's so high up on the press that there's so much space in behind to take advantage of. And that's what Ollie Watkins did to Upamecano the entire game. Unai Emery plays a high defensive line, which means that they are also the kings of offsides as well. They catch out offsides more than any other team in Division last year by a mile. For example, here's a list here. Aston Villa caused 106 offsides at this stage of the year, with second behind that is Tottenham Hotspur with 67. That's a 40 offside difference, which is huge. Aston Villa also have the debatably, I would say probably is right now, the best goalkeeper in the world. Emiliano Martinez has not just shown up for Argentina, but also, especially last night against Bayern Munich. Incredible saves. Even saves he made when he didn't even need to because they were offside. Countless times at the end of the game, Emiliano Martinez, their captain, got them over the line, which is clutch in itself. Aston Villa are a very direct club and not really bothered about this entire tiki-taka possession nonsense you see these days. Unai Emery keeps it simple. Smash it up. If it's utilising Lucas Digne with his incredible crosses on the left-hand side, or if it's getting it direct to Ollie Watkins to hold it up and get players into play, he's got many other aspects to his game. With tricky players that can do well on a transition or in technical areas, like a Leon Bailey, or like last year, it was also the likes of a Diaby. Now he's got Morgan Robson, Jacob Ramsey, even last night Philogene as well. That is great on transition and in technical areas. His back line is almost like a prime Sevilla La Liga defense. Pau Torres, Diego Carlos, and even Lucas Digne. And Consa, for me, is a prime team that you will see in the Europa League final for Sevilla. And yeah, in the end, Aston Villa beat Bayern Munich 1-0. And how far can he go? Well, with Unai Emery in charge, I wouldn't put many more ahead of him. So I'll see you boys in the final. Enjoy yourselves. Also, John Durant print Dana Mozilla designs. Check it out. See ya.